How do you know when a man loves you truly deeply in ways he himself cannot name? Is it in the words he utters, the promises he makes, or is it something subtler, something that lingers in the space between you unspoken, yet profoundly felt? Love in its most authentic form often dwells not in grand declarations, but in the quiet gestures, the fleeting glances, the choices made when no one is watching. It is a current running beneath the surface, shaping actions before the mind can even catch up. And sometimes the man himself is the last to realize what his soul has long known. Carl Jung, the great explorer of the human psyche, once wrote that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In matters of love, this is truer than ever. The heart moves first, the mind rationalizes later. With many men, the journey of love is not a straight road, but a winding path through the forests of their own unconscious. They may not see the signs, but their souls are already speaking. Why is it that so many men find it difficult to recognize or admit their feelings? Is it a matter of pride, of fear, of social conditioning, or is it something deeper? A dance between the conscious and unconscious, between the ego that wants to remain in control and the anima, the inner feminine archetype Jung described, that yearns for connection. The anima is the soul's longing, the whisper of the heart that cannot be silenced. It is she who stirs a man to love often before he can name what he feels. Imagine for a moment a man standing at the edge of a vast ocean. He gazes out, uncertain, drawn by a force he cannot see but cannot resist. The waves are his emotions, sometimes gentle, sometimes tumultuous. He may try to turn away to busy himself with other pursuits, but the tide pulls him back. This is the nature of unconscious love. It is persistent, patient, and ultimately irresistible. In the language of Jungian psychology, love is not merely a feeling, but a process of individuation, a journey toward wholeness. When a man falls in love, especially in ways he does not yet understand, he is being called to integrate parts of himself he may have long ignored. The anima awakens, and with her a cascade of emotions, memories, and desires. He may resist, deny, or rationalize, but the soul is relentless. The soul has its own logic, Jung reminds us, which often contradicts the logic of the mind. So how does this unconscious love reveal itself? If the man cannot or will not speak of it, how can you know? The answer lies in the subtle, the ordinary, the everyday. It is in the way his eyes soften when he looks at you, in the way his body leans in when you speak, in the small sacrifices he makes without fanfare or expectation. His actions become the language of his soul, speaking truths his mind may not yet allow. And yet it is not always easy to see these signs, nor to trust them. We live in a world that prizes certainty, that demands labels and definitions. But love, especially the kind that takes root in the unconscious, defies easy categorization. It is a mystery, a secret garden that reveals itself only to those who are patient, attentive, and willing to listen to the music beneath the noise. As we journey together through the signs of a man's unconscious love, let us do so with compassion, curiosity, and humility. Let us remember that every heart has its own rhythm, every soul its own path. And above all, let us honor the mystery, the beautiful, bewildering, transformative mystery of love. Have you ever noticed how love, when it first roots itself in the heart, rarely follows a straight line? It is not a steady flame, but a flickering candle, sometimes burning bright, sometimes nearly extinguished by a passing breeze. For many men, the first sign of deep unconscious love is not a grand gesture, but a paradox, the dance of coming close, then pulling away only to return again. It is a rhythm as old as longing itself. Why does he sometimes seem so near, so present, so attuned to your every word, and then, as if by some invisible command, withdraws into himself, leaving you to wonder if you imagined the intimacy you felt? This ebb and flow is not a game, nor is it a lack of care. It is the soul's struggle to reconcile the safety of solitude with the vulnerability of connection. In Jungian terms, it is the tension between the conscious ego, which seeks to protect itself, and the unconscious anima, which yearns to merge. Picture a man standing at the threshold of a door behind him, the familiar comfort of his own world. Before him, the unknown promise of intimacy. Each step forward requires courage, for to love is to risk to expose the soft underbelly of the soul. Sometimes the fear of being seen, truly seen, sends him retreating to the safety of his inner sanctum. But the pull of love is inexorable. Again and again he finds himself drawn back, unable to stay away for long. This pattern approach withdrawal return is not unique to romance. It is the very pattern of growth of transformation. The psyche, Jung tells us, is not a static entity, but a living, breathing organism. It contracts and expands, recoils and reaches out. When a man loves you deeply, even if he does not yet know it, his actions may seem contradictory. He may shower you with attention one day, then become distant the next. He may share his dreams, his fears, his laughter, and then suddenly grow silent as if overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he feels. What does this mean for you, the one who waits on the other side of the door? It means that patience is a form of love too. It means that understanding the language of the soul requires more than listening to words. It requires watching, feeling, sensing the subtle shifts in energy and presence. When he returns, it is not because he has made a rational decision, but because something deep within him cannot bear the distance. This is not to say that all distance is a sign of love, nor that every return is a promise. The difference lies in the quality of the connection, in the way his absence feels, not as abandonment, but as a necessary pause, a gathering of strength before the next leap. In this dance, both partners are transformed. The one who loves learns to trust the pull of his own heart. The one who is loved learns to trust the process to wait without demanding to receive, without clinging. Jung wrote that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. In the dance of distance and return, transformation is inevitable. The man who loves you, even if he cannot name it, is being changed by the very act of loving. His soul is awakening, his defenses are softening, his heart is learning to sing. So when you find yourself bewildered by his contradictions, remember the soul is not linear. Love is not a straight road, but a spiral circling ever closer to the truth. Trust the process, trust the pauses. Trust that beneath the surface, something beautiful is taking root. What does it mean to care for someone truly in the quiet places where words cannot reach? Is it in the grand gestures, the heroic acts, or is it in the small, persistent kindnesses that accumulate unnoticed over time? When a man loves you deeply, so deeply, he may not yet see it himself. His instinct to protect and care for you emerges not as a conscious decision, but as a reflex, a silent vow written in the language of the soul. Consider the archetype of the protector, a figure woven through myth and memory, echoing in Jung's exploration of the psyche. The protector is not a conqueror, not a jailer, but a guardian of what is precious. In the realm of love, this archetype awakens in a man not as a desire to possess, but as a longing to shelter, to support, to ensure your well-being in ways that may seem almost invisible. Perhaps you notice it in the way he walks on the outside of the sidewalk, his body unconsciously shielding you from passing cars, or in the way he remembers to check if you've eaten, if you're warm enough, if you've made it home safely. His care is not loud, not boastful. It is as natural as breathing. Yet there is a delicate line between protection and control. Love, when guided by fear, can become possessive, suffocating. But love, when rooted in trust and respect, is a gentle hand, an open door. The difference is felt, not explained. The man who loves you unconsciously does not seek to limit your freedom. Rather, he finds joy in your happiness, strength in your independence. His care is a gift, not a chain. Jung teaches us that the anima, the soul's feminine aspect within every man, awakens compassion, tenderness, and empathy. When a man's anima is stirred by love, he becomes more attuned to the needs and feelings of others, especially the one who has captured his heart. He may not speak of it, may not even understand it, but his actions reveal a devotion that words cannot contain. This instinct to protect is not always heroic or dramatic. Sometimes it is as simple as listening without judgment, offering comfort without expectation, standing by you in moments of doubt or difficulty. It is the willingness to share your burdens, to celebrate your joys, to witness your journey without trying to steer it. It is a presence that says, I am here, even when nothing more needs to be said. In a world that often confuses control with care, it is vital to recognize the difference. True protection honors boundaries. It nurtures rather than confines. If you find yourself feeling safer, stronger, more yourself in his presence, it is likely that his love is a force of healing, not harm. If, however, his care feels heavy, restrictive, or laced with anxiety, it may be a sign that fear, not love, is in the driver's seat. The most profound acts of love are often the quietest. A a cup of tea placed beside your bed, a reassuring glance across a crowded room, a hand reaching for yours in the dark. These are the moments where the soul speaks. The man who loves you, even if he cannot yet say the words, will show you in 1,000 silent ways that your well-being matters to him as much as his own. So pay attention to the small things, the gentle gestures, the steady presence that asks nothing in return. In these moments, you will find the truth of his heart written not in declarations but in devotion. What is it about the smallest details that linger in the heart long after grand gestures have faded? Why do we remember the way someone laughs at a quiet joke, the color of a scarf worn on a rainy day, the exact inflection of a voice when speaking of a childhood dream? Memory, Jung reminds us, is not merely a function of the mind, but a tapestry woven by the soul. When a man recalls the little things, your favorite song, the story behind your scar, the way you take your coffee, it is not because he has set out to memorize a list, but because his heart has quietly claimed these fragments as part of his own narrative. The act of remembering is in itself an act of love. Consider how in conversation he brings up something you mentioned only once weeks or months ago. He notices when you are quieter than usual, senses when something weighs on you, and asks not out of obligation but genuine concern. These are not the habits of a casual friend or polite acquaintance. They are the subtle, persistent echoes of a soul that has begun to entwine itself with yours. Jung's theory of emotional imprinting suggests that what moves us emotionally etches itself more deeply into memory. The man who loves you, even unconsciously, finds himself unable to forget the things that matter to you because they matter to him now too. Your joys become his joys, your sorrows his sorrows. He may not always know why he remembers, only that he does. But love is not only remembered, it is embodied. The body, Jung wrote, is the stage upon which the drama of the unconscious is played out. When a man is near you, his body often betrays what his mind cannot yet acknowledge. Watch for the restless hands, the nervous laughter, the way he leans in when you speak as if drawn by gravity itself. Notice the subtle mirroring of your gestures, the softening of his gaze, the way his breath seems to catch when you enter the room. These are not conscious performances, but involuntary confessions. The body, unburdened by the filters of the ego, reveals the truth of the heart. Sometimes the soul speaks loudest when the mind is silent. Yet the language of the body is nuanced. It is not always the bold, sweeping gestures that matter most, but the quiet, involuntary responses, the way he unconsciously seeks your proximity, the instinct to reach for your hand in moments of uncertainty, the protective stance he adopts without a second thought. These are the signals of a love that is growing often in spite of his own resistance. Jung's concept of the shadow. The hidden, often denied aspects of the self reminds us that much of what we feel is shaped by forces beneath the surface. The man who loves you may find himself surprised by his own reactions, puzzled by the intensity of his emotions, or even embarrassed by the vulnerability that rises in your presence. He may try to mask it with humor, distraction, or even temporary withdrawal, but the body does not lie. It is in these moments when the mind falters and the body speaks that love reveals itself most honestly. The trembling of a hand, the softness in a glance, the unconscious mirroring of your movements, these are the footprints of the soul, evidence of a connection that words cannot contain. So look not only to what he says, but to what he remembers and how he moves. Trust the evidence of the small things, the silent testimony of the body. In these spaces between words, you will find the truth of his heart unfolding quietly, inevitably, like a flower turning toward the sun. There is a subtle storm that sometimes brews in the heart of a man who loves without knowing it. A storm not of thunderous words or dramatic scenes, but of quiet, unspoken jealousy. It is not the possessive, controlling jealousy that seeks to cage or claim. Rather, it is a gentle ache, a fleeting shadow, that passes across his face when he sees you laughing with someone else or hears your voice light up at another's story. This jealousy is not about ownership, but about longing. It is the soul's recognition of something precious and the fear, however faint, that it might be lost. Jung's teachings on the persona and the ego shed light on this phenomenon. The persona, the mask we wear for the world, may remain composed, indifferent, even aloof. But beneath the surface, the ego wrestles with the deeper self, the part that has already given itself over to love. The man may not speak of his jealousy, may even deny it to himself, but it lingers in the way he looks at you, in the questions he asks, in the silences that follow your stories of others. This is not a jealousy that seeks to control or diminish you. It is instead a sign of vulnerability, a mark of how deeply he feels. It is the soul's way of saying, "You matter to me more than I can say." In these moments, the man is confronted with the limits of his own defenses. The persona cracks, and the truth of his affection shines through. Yet it is vital to distinguish between this quiet ache and the darker forms of jealousy that can poison love. Healthy love does not seek to possess or confine. It celebrates the beloved's freedom even as it cherishes her presence. If his jealousy ever crosses the line into control, manipulation, or disrespect, it is no longer love, but fear in disguise. True love, Jung reminds us, is a force of integration and growth, not diminishment. So how does this silent jealousy manifest? Perhaps in the way he grows quiet when you mention another's kindness, or in the extra effort he makes to make you smile after a difficult day. Perhaps in the way he listens more intently, or the way his eyes search yours for reassurance. These are not demands, but hopes, not ultimatums, but invitations. See me too, let me matter. In the end, the deepest truths of love are found not in words, but in actions. The man who loves you, even if he cannot yet say, it will show it in the way he shows up for you, consistently, quietly, without expectation of reward. He will support your dreams, respect your boundaries, and celebrate your joys as if they were his own. His love will be a shelter, not a prison, a source of strength, not a drain on your spirit. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. In loving you, the man is transformed, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. He learns to trust, to risk, to hope. He discovers parts of himself he never knew existed, and in doing so, he becomes more whole. And what of you? What should you do with this knowledge, these signs that speak louder than words? The answer is simple, yet profound. Trust what you see. Trust the evidence of your own experience. Listen to the language of action, the testimony of the body, the memory of small things. Do not rush to label or define. Let love unfold at its own pace in its own way. If you find yourself loved by a man who cannot yet say the words "be patient," honor his journey as you honor your own. Celebrate the mystery, the slow blossoming of affection, the dance of souls finding their way to one another. Remember that love is not a destination, but a path that winds through shadow and light, through fear and hope, through silence and song. In the end, it is not the words that matter most, but the presence, not the promises, but the daily acts of care, not the certainty, but the willingness to risk, to open to trust. Love in its truest form is always a leap of faith, a leap that transforms both the one who leaps and the one who waits with open arms. So as you walk this path, may you do so with courage, with gentleness, and with wonder. May you trust the signs, honor the silences, and celebrate the love that grows quietly, steadily, beautifully between two souls brave enough to be seen.